I've done a lot of research into this story, and it's one of the most fascinating stories I've ever heard. I will tell you all the facts and theories that no one has ever told you about this story. On January 22nd, 2019, 3-year-old Casey Hathaway vanished from his grandmother's backyard in Ernle, North Carolina. What followed was a search and rescue operation that gripped the nation. For 2 freezing nights, hundreds of volunteers, law enforcement officers, and even the U.S. Marines scoured the rugged terrain. Then, in a twist no one saw coming, Casey was found alive, cold and tangled in thorny brush, but safe. What he told rescuers and his family afterward shocked many and launched a wave of speculation. Casey had been playing with 2 cousins outside his grandmother's home when he wandered off. The adults noticed his absence almost immediately, but he had already slipped into the surrounding woods, not somewhere a child could easily navigate, let alone survive in cold winter conditions. Search efforts were swift and massive. Law enforcement agencies from across the state joined in, alongside civilian volunteers and specialized search teams. Drones, helicopters, and thermal imaging were deployed. For more than 2 days, there was no trace. Then, on the afternoon of January 24th, searchers following a tip about a faint cry discovered Casey tangled in thorny bushes near a swampy area. The location was almost half a mile from where he'd vanished and was described as a spot that rescuers had passed by multiple times. He was cold, wet, and shivering, but remarkably he had no serious injuries. Sheriff Chip Hughes told reporters the terrain was thick. In places it was almost impassable. For him to be where he was, it's a miracle. But it wasn't just his location that baffled officials. It was what Casey said afterward. In interviews with family and investigators, Casey said that a friendly bear kept him company and helped him stay safe. The phrase was repeated by multiple family members and eventually confirmed by the sheriff himself. The boy was clear and consistent about his story. Mainstream experts dismissed the claim as a child's way of processing trauma. Some theorized that Casey had hallucinated or imagined the bear, or that his mind had inserted a protective figure into his memory as a coping mechanism. Yet something about the detail didn't sit right with cryptid researchers. North Carolina has a long and storied history of Bigfoot sightings, particularly in the dense coastal forests near where Casey disappeared. The idea that a toddler survived in freezing conditions with no shelter, no food, and minimal injury, all while claiming to have been protected by an unknown creature, became too compelling to ignore. Cryptid enthusiasts began connecting the dots. In other parts of the United States, there have been strange reports involving children who vanish and are later found unharmed, sometimes in bizarre or seemingly impossible conditions. In several of these cases, the children also describe animals or giants that looked after them. David Paulides, a former police officer and author of the Missing 411 book series, has documented numerous such cases. According to Paulides, many share common threads: missing children found in hard-to-reach areas, often uphill or across water, and many with no memory of how they got there, or unusual recollections of being with something large and silent in the woods. In Paulides' catalog, a few cases involved children claiming they were cared for by bears, monkeys, or big furry men. The Bigfoot hypothesis has been quietly proposed in multiple reports, though it's often dismissed by officials or explained away as trauma. Casey's case fit this eerie mold perfectly. He had wandered away. He had survived impossible odds. And he claimed a large unknown animal helped him. Craven County and the surrounding forested areas in North Carolina are not strangers to Bigfoot folklore. In fact, Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, BFRO, logs multiple sightings throughout the state. In 2011, just 30 miles from Ernle, A hunter claimed to have seen a tall, hairy creature watching him from behind a tree. In 2016, campers reported vocalizations and branch-breaking sounds near the Croatan National Forest. Locals tell stories of boogers in the woods, Appalachian slang for forest-dwelling creatures, long before the term Bigfoot became popularized. These legends passed down from grandparents to grandchildren often describe towering humanoid figures with glowing eyes, terrible smells, and an uncanny ability to disappear without a trace. If there's anywhere a creature like Bigfoot could go unnoticed, it's here. So what are the possibilities? Theory 1. A real bear. It's not out of the question that Casey actually encountered a black bear. However, wildlife experts find this extremely unlikely. Black bears are not known for caregiving behavior. A bear approaching a child is far more likely to be aggressive, or at best, disinterested. For Casey to have spent 2 nights with a bear and emerged unharmed is almost inconceivable. Theory 2. Hallucination or imagination. Child psychologists suggest that Casey, overwhelmed by fear and cold, may have imagined the bear as a way to stay calm. Perhaps he curled up and visualized something warm and protective, and his mind solidified that image into a memory. Theory 3. Bigfoot. The most controversial theory is also the one that continues to gain traction among cryptozoologists. Could Casey have encountered a Bigfoot, a creature known in folklore for both aggression and protectiveness depending on the region? Some First Nations and Native American traditions depict Bigfoot as a guardian of children or the forest. According to these beliefs, Bigfoot can act out of compassion, especially toward the innocent. The way Casey described the creature, not just as a bear, but as one that stayed with him, kept him company, and ensured he was safe, doesn't align with bear behavior. But it does sound like something intelligent, observant, and capable of empathy. We may never know exactly what happened in those woods. Casey was too young to offer many details, and the family understandably chose to shield him from further interviews. But the case remains a point of fascination. Many have asked how Casey survived the cold. Did he have shelter? Did the bear lead him to a protected spot? Why didn't he suffer hypothermia or exposure, which would be expected given the conditions? While skeptics are quick to lean on coincidence, luck, or internal mental coping, others aren't so sure. The case fits a pattern, and patterns in the eyes of researchers like Polides suggest something deeper. Could Bigfoot be more than just a legend? If it is a flesh and blood creature with intelligence and a tendency to avoid human contact, it's not impossible that such a being might come across a lost child. And if the stories of its capacity for observation are true, perhaps it even knew the child needed help. Casey Hathaway's story is now more than 5 years old, but it continues to circulate in both parenting forums and paranormal communities. Some call it a miracle. Others call it something else entirely. Whether protected by a bear, a Bigfoot, or the strength of his own imagination, one thing is certain. Casey survived something extraordinary. And sometimes the line between the natural and the mysterious is far blurrier than we'd like to admit.